Welcome back to part 3 of my Firefall Rhino Battleframe overview and guide. Part 3 we're going to talk about perks. Talk about this with a lot of other frames. Now Rhino is interesting because there's a bunch of different ways you can play it. Some people choose to play it as a point blank, almost melee range, close range fighter, like a bully tank, which I kind of think is the way the game, the Red 5 kind of designed this guy, just because of his close range abilities, his Sundering Wave and his charge, and any other of the 3 or 4 other abilities that you can get that are close range from the shared Dread family. I think you could play it that way. Granted, with patch 1.1 that was just released, a lot of enemies gained a lot of damage output, so we'll see how it balances out, if it's a viable technique at this point to be a close range fighter. Having said that, a lot of the perks can steer you that way if you choose to go that way. Like I've discussed in the past, there's different levels of perks, from your basic to your intermediate, advanced, all the way to master. The basic perks only cost 1 point, and you just drag them over. For the dreads, every dread when you're leveling, I highly suggest that you pick up Resilient Plating first. This gives you a huge survivability boost. Anytime you drop below 35% health, you automatically start regenerating health, 1% of your max health per second. So this gets better even as you go on. Granted, you're going to have a larger cushion at 35% of health as your max health pool goes up, but as your max pool goes up, 1% that you're regenning also increases. So this is a great perk to have, probably throughout the whole your whole career as a Rhino. One of the second abilities I picked up was Personal Shield. Whenever I activate an ability, I gain a shield that protects me for 10% of my maximum health. Right now you can see the green number down here where my health is 13,000. So if you're doing 10% of that, you just move the decimal point 1 over, so you get a shield for basically 1,300 damage. And that's any time that I activate a shield, activate an ability. So if I've got this perk and I want to charge into a pack, as soon as I hit charge, I'm going to gain that 1,300 point shield. And if that goes down, after I've got him knocked back and my charge wears off, and I hit my Sundering Wave, I get another shield. And then if you had Repulsor Blast or whatever for your third ability, as soon as you hit that, you get another shield. So it stacks very well. It leads you towards a protective tanky type build. I grabbed Harden. It's a Mammoth level 10 unlock. After taking damage, your armor hardens to reduce your next source of damage by 25%. It's got a 7-second internal cooldown. So basically, every 7 seconds if you're taking constant damage, you're going to get a 25% reduction from the next shot. If you're getting peppered by small arms fire, this doesn't work out too great. It's not that big of a buff. But if you're getting sniped at, or if this is active when you do get sniped, 25% reduction from a snipe is actually quite a bit of reduction. So I grabbed that one. So I've got basically 3 really beefy tank type perks already on this build. I chose this one, Combat Veteran. You unlock this at level 10 for your arsenal. It increases your reload speed and weapon switch speed. Weapon switch speed is kind of irrelevant in this game at this point, considering it's almost an instantaneous switch. between your primary and your secondary weapon. But the reload speed is why I picked it up. 50% reload speed with these gigantic clips on these gigantic weapons actually helps out a lot. Other abilities that you could look at. You could look at Headhunter if you wanted to. Granted, with the fairly large cone of this weapon and not being able to aim down the sights, if you get at a decent range, you get used to aiming towards the head. You could possibly make use of this. Those are some of the basic. Don't be fooled by picking up Ballistics Expert. Even though you have a heavy machine gun, it's actually a laser gun. So this perk will not help you at all unless you're using a Cord Dreadnought heavy machine gun that actually does shoot bullets. If you're using that weapon, you're really not taking full advantage of the Rhino. So probably leave Ballistics Experts out of your Rhino build. There's not a whole lot of other great perks for basics. You could take some of these damage reductions if you're facing a lot of bandits or chosen enemies. You may want to get this. Decreases bullet and kinetic damage by 20%. That could help your tanky build quite a bit. And these are movement speed bonuses. Grenadier, if you really enjoy using your gravity grenade, you could pick up this. I wouldn't suggest it. The best class for Grenadier is obviously a recon that has 3 or 4 different types of grenades at their disposal. So that's it for basics. Going down to intermediate, Plasma. Where are we? Plasma Enthusiast. This is one of the perks that you're going to look at. To get this, you need to unlock your Accord Assault up to level 20. This will give you 10% damage. This is basically your Ballistics Expert for energy or plasma weapons. So this is probably worthwhile getting your Accord Assault up to level 20. So that's an extra 10% damage. That's a huge chunk for your primary weapon. Epicenter. Where are we? Right here. This is from a Firecat level 20. This increases all your point-blank AoE damage abilities by 15%. Like I discussed before, if you're using the combo system with your abilities, you stampede to group people up, get them up against a wall, hit them with your Sundering Wave, which is the point-blank AoE. You can then use an Absorption Bomb if you wanted to soak up damage and then blow them away that way. Or you can have a Repulsor Blast, which also is point-blank AoE. There's lots of different options here. So I may end up picking this up just to try it out, to see if the close range, almost melee range Rhino build works out. And Necrotic Bite is another good one. If you're if you're facing a lot of chosen or bandits, humanoid targets, you'll get an automatic 10% damage increase to those types. Only a few things other that might be interesting to pick up here. Physicist increases charge speed. The thing about that is, yes, your weapon does have a spin up. If that really bothers you, you can modify your weapon to decrease the length of time that it takes for your spin up. You could grab this perk if it really bothers you, but the fact of the matter is, this gun can shoot for nearly for forever without having to reload. It's got a gigantic clip on it. So if you take your finger off the trigger, your spin up doesn't automatically go down to 0. It slides down to 0. So if you keep feathering your gun, you can kind of keep your charge speed up like this. If you're able to feather like that, you don't have to ever get down to your base charge speed. So, if you're trying to pick out your target, you could do it that way. and charge speed is not going to bother you. It's probably not worth those perk points being spent there. Other thing that you could think about is, if you were wanting to try the melee route, you could try for this. Gives you 20% melee damage and a chance to stun the target. Feeding into that idea, energy shaping gives you your Sin Blades, 50% melee damage, and changes your attack to energy damage, which coincides with your Plasma Enthusiast already. So I'm thinking this build could be possible. I'll probably post something about this later when I finally get this build, get my level up, and get this build fleshed out to see if it's see how it works. Other advanced items to or perks to look for: Kill Stealer. This is your perk that you unlock at level 30. This is great for large targets. This is great for any other targets, basically. If they're under half health, you're doing extra 30% damage. Before I was talking about your primary weapon, where you can use your primary weapon with a spin up and knock them down a little bit and then finish them off with your secondary. They're going to fry even faster this way. So that's an idea for an advanced perk. There's not many other great ones in here. If you want this for tankiness, give you an extra 25% health. Eye of the Tiger will affect your charge. Not really worth it. Yeah, there's really not a whole lot in here for a Rhino. Deflection plating, again, if you're building tanky, this might be worth it. Gives you a 33% chance to ricochet shots off of you. Yeah, there's not a whole lot going on here for the Rhino. You could get larger magazine, total ammo. It's yeah. So moving on to Master, there's a couple different options in here. This one's going to be one of the ones you're going to look at first, Hunter. Repeatedly striking the same target increases your damage 10% per hit. So this should basically give you a 40% damage increase almost automatically, just because you're going to be shooting large amounts of energy bullets downrange. So that should stack up pretty quickly. You should be able to keep that advantage fairly easily. Flame Buffer. This is from finishing off your Tiger Cat. Any ability that you activate will give you a fire shield. It burns nearby enemies. It's like a AoE buff. Damage buff, and it goes up from 50 HP per second, and then after a while it combusts and just blows up. So if you're if you're doing the point blank AoE stuff, I bet you this coincides with Epicenter, and they probably feed off each other, not to mention all of your other point blank AoE stuff. So this could work out with that type of build if you were going that way. Your Rhino Master is Hero. Basically, it's a second life. After you get killed or go down to 0 health, you basically become immune for 5 seconds and then you're alive again. And it's got a 15-minute internal cooldown. And another interesting idea I saw in here was the where are we? The arcing bolts, energy weapons, which your heavy machine gun is for the Rhino. They can chain weapon damage to nearby enemies. Each arc inflicts 10% of weapon damage. So this might be good since you're throwing a lot of fire down range, and you really don't have a whole lot of ranged AoE damage. This could help counteract that. Granted, it's a large investment for a fairly small return. But if you wanted to stay longer range, this might be an option. The arcing bolts. So basically, pick what you want. This, like I've said before, this frame could go one of two ways. You could use it. It's obviously an offensive frame, but you can perk it out where you can get it fairly tanky, as most of the dreads can be. And then like I said, I'm going to try to spec this out as a close-range melee fighter, and we'll see how well that works. So keep your eyes open for that update or that guide. So that wraps up the Rhino frame. It's been a long time coming, and I finally got around to filming it. Please feel free to share this with your friends. Hit the like button if you like this video. Feel free to subscribe so you can be updated when I release new content. I still have the Mammoth the Mammoth Battleframe guide that I need to do. That'll take care of all the tier 2s. I'll have all the tier 2s done. Possibly I'll go back and do the Accords. It might be a good idea to do the Accord Battleframe guides for new players since they don't have access to the tier 2s. Just to give them an idea of different techniques and how to play and such. So yeah, if you want to check out all my other Firefall guides and videos, click this annotation here. To subscribe, click this annotation here. I hope you had a good time watching this video, and I hope you learned something.